we're going to rearrange, I think, our board meeting room for the next work session to where we can still sit at the table, but yet there's still room for everybody to attend and work. So we kind of realized this room's a little bit tight, but we'll work on getting that through. I know we've got the agenda, kind of has the flow of what's going on, but we also have the planning commission is meeting at 6. So our planning and development staff's got a lot going on as they get ready for that. So I'm going to rearrange it and let them go first after we just kind of open up the floor. If either of you have anything that you want to try to go over before we dive in. I know some of the conversations may lead to other parts as we go, but if that's okay with you guys, I know Charles passed out, or Ashley passed out to the board the upcoming rezones that will be on the agenda for next week's meeting. And that way we've got a chance to ask any questions of the planning and development staff. And so with that, Charles, I'm going to let you grab the floor and run with it.
Okay. All right. Good evening, commissioners. We have a few cases tonight to go over. The first one is CU-190683. That's for Global Year Incorporated. And they're asking for a conditional use permit for purpose of a missionary training center. The property is located at 11178 Henderson Mountain Road. And the applicant gave the planning commission a presentation explaining the use. It's going to be, like I said, a missionary center for the purposes of training young, inspiring missionaries before they travel abroad. It's a facility that will be for temporary stay, and while they're there, they'll be studying and what have you. And I believe on the site plan, it's going to be 2 cabins. And once again, it'll be temporary. And I believe it's seasonal, where they bring these few students in, and then there's a second time of the year where they come back and kind of get a report of what they've done. But it's a pretty neat situation that they have going on, and it's a 501c3, and it's a nationally run nonprofit organization. Our recommendation, after reviewing the applicant's request to obtain a conditional use on this 14.67 acre parcel, staff recommends approval with the following conditions. Applicant shall construct no more than 2 cabins on the property for the proposed use. Applicant shall adhere to all buffer and erosion requirements as set forth by local and state laws. And if I may add, the Planning Commission did vote unanimously 6-0 to accept the staff recommendation of approval with conditions.
And I know each of these were already in the meeting that Mary put out. I think you put it out like the day after the meeting this time. So you got
I try to get them out.
on the Pickens. So you have access to view any public comments. I don't believe on this particular one there were any other public comments that were addressed whenever it came through. I don't have any questions on that particular one. You guys? All right.
Next one is referenced as the case is referenced as RZ-190685. Applicant is Holly's Family Trust. Property is located at 5545 Cove Road. The zoning request is from AG Agriculture to RR Rural Residential. This is a 2-acre portion of 21.72 acres that they're requesting. The intent of the zoning request is to sell the property to an individual for the development of a single-family home. This particular application was tabled and then brought before the Planning Commission again. There was some opposition in regards to erosion control. Staff has been out there on several occasions. Most recently, Ashley and I were there Friday. And what we've noticed, of course, you have the issue of erosion control, but there was 3 parcels that separated between the subject property and the Cagle property. Those were the folks that were in opposition. We believe that with some conditions, and also given the fact that we are LIA county, that, if we are going to enforce the erosion control ordinance and all the mandates and requirements that are required with that. We don't think as a staff that it would be too much of a negative impact to the surrounding area. So our recommendation after receiving this application is for approval to RR with the following conditions. Developer must communicate with staff regarding erosion control, as I mentioned earlier, to ensure all BMP measures and guidelines are followed and adhered to. The Planning Commission voted 4 in favor, 2 against, to accept the staff recommendation of approval with conditions.
I've been working with Charles and Bill on coming up with wording for a vegetative buffer to plant between the properties for erosion purposes too. So we're still working on getting that wording finalized, how we want to do it. I didn't think about asking you this. How will the checking for erosion happen? Like, will someone, and who is that someone, go out periodically and check and make sure everything's right, or do you wait to see if someone complains before going to check?
No.
Okay.
This would be pre, during, and post construction.
Okay.
That will be out there,
And who
especially during rain events.
Okay, and who would go check?
It'll be our staff.
Okay.
Between our staff, roads department, public
Okay.
works department. That'll be Kirk Anderson and Wes Fry.
Okay.
In addition to our staff.
Okay.
And Matt, when he's going out to do the building inspections, he is red card certified, so he has all the certifications to be able to check for the erosion stuff too.
Okay, perfect.
And I had gotten a call from the Cagle family to come out and look at what had been caused from the prior. I don't know if anyone else, and I went and met with
I've been out and looked at it too.
looked at it, and I figured that they were reaching out. If they reached out to me, they probably reached to each to look at it. And I think a lot of it's from things from many years ago. It's not from
Yes.
anything recent. This is stuff that's progressed over time.
Yeah.
I know there was some concern in the planning commission meeting of who caused the erosion to happen in the first place. Was it the construction of the road? Was it the previous development, the clearing of the trees, or all of the above that led to what was there? But with it just simply being a 2-acre parcel, I think the impact would be minimal on this versus what had occurred prior where it was 20 acres that was disturbed. So
2 acres, and the folks that's going to be building the home, we're looking at less than 2,000 square feet of building.
And when we went out there last week, they have it like marked off, like they have ribbons tied of where the driveway is going to go, where the house is going to go, and the trees that they're going to take down. They have them tied off too. There's 3 trees that'll come down that will actually end up being, technically in front of the house. So there's not any trees coming down on the 2 acres that, other than like brush and undergrowth and stuff that's grown up over time. But they had said that, I guess when there was storms and stuff came through, it pretty much cleared that property. And other than, bushes that are maybe 3-4 foot high at the largest, they're gonna be taking down 3 trees. So, and like I said, that's all relative to the house. That's on the front side of where the house will be.
any questions, comments, concerns?
Mr. Tatum addressed my questions.
Well, we're almost done with that language, by the way, so that we're going to add as part of the conditions.
Next on.
Oh, next. Okay.
Sorry.
Moving on.
I think
Okay.
that you guys have stacked this meeting with some of the more controversial all at one time. So, yeah.
As I'm reading this, you can pass this, so the larger version of the proposed site plan. This next case is RZ-1906686. Applicant is Jasper Property Ventures LLC. Property location is around Mockingbird Lane. Zoning request is from agriculture AG to rural residential RR. It's a combined 100 plus acres approximately. Intent of zoning request is to develop I believe a 29 lot subdivision. I believe this one was tabled as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, this one had initially almost made it to you guys, and then they withdrew, and then this one is coming back, through all together again.
And there are issues in regards to access coming off of Highway 53. Also with the potential issue that this development would have with such a small lane. Mockingbird Lane is very small in terms of its width, its right-of-way width. So those are some issues that will have to be mitigated. So y'all make a determination to approve. This will also involve GDOT.
I hate to interrupt.
Yes.
When you say mitigated during the subdivision application process, so it would be contingent, that it really doesn't affect the zoning as much as it does the subdivision application, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Got my train of thought.
Sorry, I didn't mean to, GDOT was where you were at whenever.
I was just saying that should this move forward, we will be working in concert with GDOT in terms of what are some mitigation items that they would need to make this work. Because I think coming off of, as I discussed with you earlier, Josh, coming off of 53, you have the issue of sight distance. They will probably need to be required to have or install A-cell, D-cell lane, not to mention the problems that you have on Mockingbird Lane to access the actual property. So those are all the things that have to be addressed. After reviewing the applicant's request to rezone 100+ acres from agriculture to rural residential, staff recommends approval of this request with the following conditions. And this font is very small.
I'm so sorry. I can read it if I need
That's
to.
why you're laughing.
Okay.
Oh my Lord.
You want me to read it?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay. So access is provided to and from a public road regarding ingress and egress to and from the development with adequate width and right-of-way to satisfy utility and road standards. A letter from GDOT stipulating the current configurations and all associated safety and traffic standards of the intersection of Mockingbird Lane and Highway 53 and its relevant vicinity are satisfactory to accommodate the proposed development in its entirety. A homeowners association agreement if the roads within the development are to be privately maintained. Written acknowledgement of the applicability of the subdivision standards and subdivision approval process detailed in Chapter 38 of the Pickens County Code of Ordinances to the subdivision and the development of the parcels, and written acknowledgement with the intent to adhere and comply with said standards and processes if available or applicable.
The planning commission voted 4 in favor, 2 against, to accept the staff recommendation of approval with those conditions that were just read to you.
Have you heard any hint of plans to take water into there for fire service, fire protection?
It would be in the subdivision application
It would.
process.
That'll
It would
definitely be
be
addressed.
required
'Cause
on that one.
that's-
One question I've got, and that's because I can't make out the font that's in here, is
Sorry.
the lot sizes on the screen.
Oh, yeah.
Is the smallest, is it 1 point something acres going up to 5 acres, or am I reading?
Yeah,
it
it's
correct?
an acre and a half is like the minimum lot size, and then it goes all the way up to 5 acres. It just would depend. So with that, they would have the requirement of curbing and guttering and the whole 9 yards on the roads if approved.
Okay.
There was some discussion early on about them purchasing a separate piece of property that goes all the way out to 53. So will the main entrance to the development be on that new property, or are they gonna utilize Mockingbird?
I think they're still working it
So
out.
the plan, and this was, something that, given that one condition that we've added in there that they have to provide that access, that's something that it's not like set in stone, this is how it's gonna be done, but that access will have to be provided. And after talking to Mr. Vasquez, the plan as of right now is to take that strip that runs parallel to Mockingbird, widen Mockingbird and bring it up to county standard, then turn it over to the county so that all that portion that's made to the 60-foot right of way would be county maintained. And then they would come off of that with their primary entrance down to the development. So then if there was any need for a secondary entrance, and I know that gets into the fire territory, so I don't want to speak on that, but their secondary entrance would be off of the easement that kind of comes on that curve of Mockingbird and then down. But the primary would come off of that strip that they're planning on purchasing, which is detailed on that slide 15.
And the developers are agreeable to doing the road work themselves?
Absolutely, yeah, they said that they would bring the road completely up, as far as what they actually are gonna use for access, they would bring all of that up completely to county standards, and then, turn it over to the county to be able
But
to.
they're holding on the purchase till after the
Right.
determination's made during the rezone hearing.
Right, which is why we added that condition in there, so that way, even if it is approved, it's still, they can't move forward with anything until that's set in stone and they have that access. We were very meticulous with these, conditions on all the things needing to be met before it can even really get to the part of creating the development.
Is the fire access on the gravel road part, is that acceptable?
That's a bad entrance, it's just bad. I'd like to see what the plans are gonna be, because it's bad getting out. If they're gonna make a left turn out of there, that's just a bad intersection.
Yeah.
Come in right's not as bad as if you're gonna shoot up there and go left.
And that's.
That needs a lot of improvement right there.
During the subdivision application process, again, you've got the rezone process and then you've got the subdivision application process. We won't approve the subdivision application for them to start anything in there until they're satisfied with, everybody, it's gonna have to go through water, which granted it's city water service area, but it's gonna have to go through water, environmental health, it'll have to go through all the boxes before it's even preliminarily approved, outside of just the zoning aspect of it.
Thank you.
Need more on that?
I'm good.
Next.
Next up.
Case referenced as RZ-190706. Applicant is Abbas Al Saidi. Property is located off of All Red Mill Road. The zoning request is from Agriculture AG to Estate Residential ER. The property is approximately 19.84 acres. Intent of zoning request is to develop a 4-lot subdivision. And you'll see the proposed survey in your packet. After reviewing the applicant's request to rezone to 19.84 acres from agriculture to estate residential, staff recommends approval of this request. The planning commission voted 5 in favor and 1 abstained. Recommendation of approval.
To deny the
Did not.
approval.
What's
Yeah.
that denied?
Yeah,
Yeah,
5
it
in
was
favor of denial.
Denied, yeah.
Of the staff recommendation.
Yes.
Yep.
Of course, there's been opposition.
So I know this one doesn't show the zoning surrounding it, but I did look whenever I watched the planning commission meeting. It appears, it does actually show
You
it
need
on
your
this.
glasses.
I thought I put it
Listen,
there.
one slide to one page in the future is gonna
Sorry.
help me a whole lot. 'Cause
The next one is like that, just so you know.
Bill, wherever he sat in here, Bill's bad about printing his pages 2 or 4 to a page, and I can't read it, so. But I know it's ag on both, on 2 of the sides, or on 3 of the sides, but then RR touches one side on there, so it is predominantly ag in that area. There are some rural residential, large lot rural residential, home sites in existence that are there. But I do see it now, I didn't see it when I originally looked at it. Any questions on that one? I know that in watching it, there was quite a few public comments.
No, so I've spoken with the surrounding property owners in opposition, and I've spoken with Mr. Al Saidi. I encourage them all to get together and try to come up with a compromise, and then provide us with feedback. I have yet to hear anything.
All right. All right. Move on to the next.
Next up is case reference as RZ-190707. Applicant is Matthew Kinzer. Property is located at 219 Wren Road. The zoning request is from agriculture to rural residential. This property is approximately 2.797 acres out of 16.52 acres tract. The intent of the zoning request is to sell the existing home with the 2.797 acres. I believe this is a bank financing.
I don't think this one is. I think
Yeah.
yes.
Retiring and moving?
Mhm.
Okay. Recommendation, after reviewing the applicant's request to rezone the 2.797 acre portion from agriculture to rural residential, staff recommends approval of this request. The planning commission did vote unanimously, 6-0 to accept the staff recommendation of approval.
Simple. And then I know we have one other, this will be the first time that we actually have, after we made the change to our ordinance a few months back, to where someone applying for a down zone, where they're going from a higher density to a lower density, that it fast tracks to where it comes straight before the Board of Commissioners for the Planning Commission. So we'll have our first public hearing portion during our meeting next week for a down zone request, which will then, we'll have the public hearing portion toward the beginning of the meeting. We'll have that included into the vote so that it has the opportunity to be heard and voted during the same meeting. So that'll be our first one. I know they're just gonna kind of present what it is, but then they'll do the presentation for
Right.
public hearing during the meeting next week, so.
Right, the applicant is Michael Leonard. This property is going to be located along Steve Tate Road and Hubbard Road. This is in the within vicinity of the Big Canoe area, East District, represented by Mr. Tatum. This request is to rezone a 21.63 acre portion from neighborhood commercial to small ag, with the intent to build a single family dwelling. So we are about complete with our research. We'll be ready to present to you all next week.
And that'll be the first that we've done this way, but I know that ordinance had passed to make that a faster process on those.
Tatum's all grandfather.
I am all good.
All right, any other questions for planning and development? We'll let them
Thank y'all.
break free, they've got a meeting at 6 to prepare more for next month when we have them come back. Thank y'all very much for coming and going over this. And I'm gonna make notes on here because I've rearranged the order and ask them to talk again. The next thing we do have on the agenda is capital improvement plan updates. I know we approved about 2 months ago the contract working with Rochester to help us prepare a capital improvement plan and SPOS information. We'll let Bill go over an update just on kind of where we're at on the timetable with that for you guys.
Okay, thanks, Chris. So as all of you know, that we had department meetings with the directors. That's been concluded. And thanks to everybody for coming well prepared and presenting a great case that you articulated for what you're looking for. We're going to have final revenue projections that are due from Rochester on July the 19th. On the same day, we're going to have final departmental 5-year capital plans that are due to Miranda. And then we will sit down and consolidate all of these into a 10-year capital plan. I'll explain that in just a second. We'll do that on July the 31st. Now, the final departmental 5-year plans, the things that we talked about with the various directors, land, structures, vehicles, equipment, and people. Now, that people, as a practical matter, is really limited to public works, because that's something that is fairly widespread practice across the state, that when people are truly working on those types of projects, their compensation can be paid from the special sales taxes. And then they'll have estimated outlays by year if it's a single year project, or by years if it's a multiple year project. And then we've asked you guys to prioritize everything 1 through whatever the final item is, so that we can get a handle on how important you think it is. That prioritization tag that you put on it will be really, really critical for us to make determinations on sorting all of this out into the final plan. If we drop down to the second half of the page, that's just an optic to illustrate the fact that we're going to have, and I didn't see anything that was not viable in concept that anybody brought in. However, we're not gonna be able to get everything in 5 years. So based on the consolidated prioritization, there'll be a spillover into the next 5 years so that we can try to get all of this covered over a 10-year period. Now, this document or this table, the way it ends up will be a living and breathing thing. And we'll be rolling this every year so that we'll drop off a year as it passes and then add the next year to the end of the cycle and just keep this going for as long as we do this. So that's pretty much your update. Again, thanks to everybody for working on this. Your work's paying off on it.
I think that'll give us a good solid picture of the needs and how to spread out what is coming up over the next couple of years. Chairs set of rock. Every time I move, I feel like it's going to flip.
Yes, chairs are on the list.
Yeah. I was about to have a little panic moment there for just a second. But this plays well into working on preparations for SPLOST and then potentially T-SPLOST materials that we can gather. It's hard to go to the public and talk to the public about the needs if we can't show the prioritized list of the cost of each one of these items, whether it be in public safety, facilities, roads, all across the board. I mean, this gives us a true plan that we're going to be able to sell. And I know Miranda smiles because this has been something that she's been dreaming of seeing for a while, so that we can actually work through checking off each part of it. And it's a living and breathing. So I mean, if the priorities change, if we have a major issue that occurs, we can move and see those get rearranged. But it also helps us in planning for when we're looking at these developments, future developments that are trying to go into certain areas. If it's going to be 5 years down the road in the capital improvement plan, that gives us the ability to work with those developers, and whether that be in the form of fees or in the form of letting them know these things have to occur before, then that helps us a lot with the tool on that. But I just wanted to make sure y'all were kind of aware of where that stood. And I think everybody's been, from meeting with Miranda and Bill and Sloan, each department has been sitting down and going through the line items and have done a phenomenal job. So some are expensive and are going to require more than 5, and some are going to require searching for grants, and some are going to require other things that would go on with it. But this gives us a way to work off of a true plan instead of just trying to figure it out each year as we go.
That'd be nice.
All right. Any questions? Anything on that? Before we dive on through?
I'm up Miranda, I'm excited.
I think it'd be a great thing. The next one's the traffic common policy for public works. I know this was really just to make sure that we had that in your hands. We've got 2 in your packets, one from Habersham, one from Hall. The Hall one was emailed by staff, I think, to each member of the board, if I'm not mistaken, earlier. Just in case you didn't, they're almost identical. If you go through and look at Hall and Habersham, very, very similar in establishing where the speed humps and other traffic control measures would be put in place and what those would look like, and the process for how a subdivision or a community can go through. It's similar to like what we talked about a little while back, where it requires a percentage of the residents to be in approval, because it does change their quality of life with having to drive through there. And I think both Habersham and Hall have 75%. They're both limited to subdivisions, not cut through thoroughfare roads. They're not designed to be arterial roads. They're designed to be in subdivisions to slow down traffic. There are in both of these slope and site requirements that will be in place. That becomes a bigger issue here probably than Hall. Habersham should probably get similar to us, and that's because of scraping the roads. If it's a community that has to be scraped during the wintertime, if you add a speed bump, that makes that virtually impossible without creating issues going through there. So it can create some other traffic issues. But it also kind of puts some of the burden on the community themselves to gather if they're coming in to petition, then they would have a specific petition, they would have specific language that then each of those members of the community would have to approve, and it would have to show a total of 75% of everybody being in favor before we then start to invest money in engineering studies or anything that goes beyond that. before that process took place. So I know y'all have had Hall to review before now. I've added Habersham, which I just wanted to show that one just so you could really more see that they're almost identical. Those two counties. Cobb has got a very thorough program, but Cobb is designed theirs more for a metro, but some of the same language and some of the same issues and concerns that were in place. I know that in the past, our issue has been our engineers have recommended kind of steering clear of speed bumps, but I think that in looking at what other counties have done by limiting it to certain types of communities and certain speed limits, there are ways that they can be effective, but they have to meet all those criteria beforehand and would require, like I said, the majority of that community to be in support. And it actually has one of the things Cobb put in theirs that I don't remember if Hall and Habersham had. You guys may remember this when you see it. And this is something that had happened historically here. But it has a requirement that if one's put in, it can't be requested to be removed for 2 years. Because there have been times where they've been put in and immediately after the neighbors come back and say, I don't like the noise, I don't like their tires are going in my grass now because they're trying to drive around. I mean, those type of things happen. This says if it gets put in and we go through all the effort, go through all the work to put this in place, it's going to stay in place for a minimum of 2, I think was Cobb, I think 3 in one of the other counties. It was in place to where they understand this isn't a decision that's going to be just immediately revoked or taken back out. I know this is more to be reviewing. If y'all have comments after you've reviewed these, or if you have some more suggestions or anything, if you will communicate that directly to either Bill or to Kurt, that way we can kind of work on a draft that has any of your comments. This is not an ordinance, this is a policy.
Okay.
However, because of the nature of what type of policy this one is, I do believe it will come back before us as a board that we can then put it on the agenda for one of our voting meetings to vote for approval.
Can we vote on it next week?
You ready that fast? If we've got enough to get it prepared, possibly. At worst case scenario, it would be in August. So, I mean, I think that we can get this 100% corrected and all the I's dotted and T's crossed before the August meeting. Potentially could be, but we'll have to send the agenda out for next week's meeting tomorrow. So, because our work session this time fell a week from our regular meeting, it's going to be a tight schedule, but we would have it fully ready before the August meeting. So, does that sound good?
Yes, sir.
I mean, if y'all got questions while we're in here, if you want to ask, I know Kurt's out of time today, but we can attempt to do it. But I wanted to make sure y'all had a chance to review one, you haven't had a chance, and then we've got to take and amend the language to ours.
Do we know roughly, on average, how much it costs to install a speed bump?
It depends on the type, speed table, speed hump, or speed bump. They can range anywhere from $10,000 for the speed table and down to several $100s for the devices that are actually designed for parking lots, which is what has been used historically. I don't think we need to go that direction. I think that creates safety issues. If we're going to do it, it needs to be an actual install. So anywhere in that range of $1,000 up to $10,000, depending on the location and the scope and current paving costs.
That's a big range. Okay.
It's a huge range. But when you drive them and look at the difference between a speed table that has concrete on the sides with asphalt in the middle, those get way more expensive versus just an asphalt speed bump that's in place. City of Jasper just put 2 or 3 in on Ridgeway.
Which
that
ones?
they actually did the asphalt. They replaced some of the old ones
Oh, they've got the.
with regular speed bumps. There's one that's still the old one, and then the rest of the new. So they would have a more current pricing of what that particular one.
Are they the humps or the tables? You said?
Humps?
Okay.
Yeah, they're not the full tables. They are humps. So we would be able to get that from them as we go, and that price will change every paving season with the asphalt cost. So, and the visibility of putting the signs and painting, you'd have to be a part of it as well.
I'm good. Thank you.
Well, we'll have that, like I said, if you guys will review these, send an email, Kirk and Bill, any suggestions that you have for amendments to the text, then we'll get a finalized copy of that policy in place and ready to present at the August meeting for your approval at that point.
Sounds good.
All right. Next up is going to be Miss Miranda. I know that when we did the amendments to the local act, we discussed the audit cycle and moving the process for auditors to have to go through. So I'm going to let Miranda go over an update on the audit cycle.
Okay, so we just finished up our 3rd year with the current firm, And as you can see, we're in the after our 3 year, we go out for RFP for the new audit companies. Our first, let's see, we've already actually got the RFP completed. So we have it scheduled on the schedule for September the 9th as going out and requesting or sending those out. I have a list of the companies that we used last time we sent that out to. And then I've had several firms reach out to me as far as they would like to be emailed that. With that being said, we can also, or it's in our current Rushton can actually submit an RFP as well. So timeline for that, starting September the 9th, deadline for questions is September the 19th. Due date for proposals is October the 23rd, and award date is November the 18th, so it'll be that regular meeting.
We would be able to listen to each of the concerns and you would make a recommendation based on all the
Absolutely.
proposals that were submitted. So we'll have the opportunity to review and look at, the one difference is our current auditor has the ability to reapply to continue, and I think that they've done an extremely professional job.
And if there's any suggestions as far as if you've seen anything that you'd like to be updated, that, like I said, we've already been working on the RFP, but I'm glad we made some changes.
You good?
Yes, sir.
All right. Next, we have Miss Paula. She's going to go over a couple of updates to the employee handbook. I know we've historically had that before a vote, but I wanted to make sure we had a chance to look at any of the changes that she would present. So,
Okay, you all should have a copy of it, and I done just a summary. On page 7, I removed some things and updated it just for to be more general, so if there's any changes in the future. And then, page 7, we have an overtime exclusion, and I kind of look at things that throughout the year, from year to year, if there's a little confusion, so we looked at that. I've met with Bill and Chris, and we looked at that and done a few updates to that. And under rules of conduct on page 9, we were adding a sexual abuse and misconduct prevention policy, which is really needed, and our insurance company, our liability insurance company, had provided a sample policy for that. On page 25, added Juneteenth, the holiday. Page 26, some things were added for clarification. And on page 31, on the social media policy, I just recommend that we remove the MySpace and Pavix just to update it.
so that means I can do whatever I want on my MySpace page.
Nobody will ever know.
I'm not even turning MySpace.
Yeah. Is that still a thing?
It's gonna make a comeback.
I haven't either.
Twitter's now X, so if we're gonna update that section, Twitter is now
Okay.
X, so it would probably need to be updated as well.
Do we need to have all those itemized? Can we just say social
Social
media?
media.
That way it'll.
We're not having to
It'll
constantly
age
look at this in any form of social media. That might be, I mean, and just in this discussion, looking at just those few changes, because we've not included Snapchat, we've not included some others that are, included.
I ain't gonna have the 2 apps on my phone now.
That's probably a good thing.
I'm looking at that. I think you've got some parentheses there that have all those. I'll just take everything in those parentheses out, and in the area of social media, employees may use such media. So that's just my thoughts.
It probably would simplify it. Sure. Any other I know that there's a lot of content there to read through. I think that you uploaded it into their digital so they can actually pull it up on their computers.
Yes.
May give you the ability to see a little bit on the comment section, a little bit more, and then read the language change. The one big one was the sexual abuse and misconduct policy that was provided directly from the insurance company. So the rest are some small tweaks, but while trying to adjust that one, that gives us the ability to do that. We'll have this on the agenda for next week's meeting on Monday. So if you'll, like I said, if you'll review it, if you see anything else like what we had just now, if you'll make sure to email Paula while you're reviewing that over the course of the week. But we do have that on the tentative agenda. and I'm glad we're narrowing down what is considered social media. We're going to get experts like Stacy to chime in over there to try to tell us what is social and what's not. So, I get outdated on that one quick. All right. Paving project updates, and Kirk is not here. I wanted to kind of just go through the list of what's going on in the road department with paving. Primary Audit, which is who had the paving contract awarded, they have completed all paving projects at this time. So the things that are remaining is to come back and put in the striping, and so they've still got to come back and finish those out before they're 100%. But as far as the asphalt, the patching, and paving projects have been completed. I'm scared to go over the list because I'm sure I'm going to leave out one or two, but I'm going to try my best to give it at least the big ones. Jones Mountain and Whitestone were fully done. There was patching work that was done and resurfaced. If you hadn't had a chance to go drive
They
those,
did a great job of
it's
this.
phenomenal. Old Talking Rock and then a portion of Twin Mountain Lakes where the road had been just deteriorating really bad on one half of Old Talking Rock and then Twin Mountain Lakes was fixed. There was some patching on Talking Rock Highway between Talking Rock and Jasper, close to the Talking Rock side, and it was right where the line where the state finished paving a few years ago, and the counties took over. Something didn't transition well, so they did do the patching on those areas to make that smooth. On Fairview Road, the part on the south side of Fairview Road that was already previously asphalt has been resurfaced, so that part was completely redone as well. Town Creek Church Road. I'm trying to remember if that's the name of the road right there, Town Creek Church, off of LJ Road.
You got Town Creek Road.
There was a significant amount of deterioration on the asphalt area. It's been resurfaced, and then they did some patching in the Antioch Church area. Fortunately for us, they came the week of revival to patch right there in front of the church. So the phone rang a few times, but we couldn't really control the contractors going and doing it. And then they've been working on patching on Salem Church. We've kind of had to go a similar route with Salem that we did with Cove a couple of years ago. Did a lot of patching this year. Paving will be done next year, and that was part of that additional LMIG money that we received from the state has already been allocated to do a full resurface of Salem Church Road next year. So we'll be able to make sure that one's on the list that gets treatment on it. We did receive emergency LMIG funding to help us with the Hobson culvert project that we've got to basically widen that road, create a temporary road while it's completely rebuilt because it's starting to fail. The culvert right now, the bottom part's buckling up, and so the state awarded us $500,000 of the 730, I think is the estimate from the engineers on the total cost of the project. So it's 2/3 of that's going to be covered from that additional funds coming from the state, and then we'll cover the additional part from SPLOST. So they're getting the balls rolling, getting ready to go out to bid on that. I mean, there's an entire subdivision that's the only way in and out, and it floods pretty regularly. So as that culvert started to deteriorate, it's becoming a true emergency that we get that one addressed and fixed. So I know our crews went out and did some tentative work and expanded the pipe out further to create where the temporary road can be put in, and to help shore up what's there now so that it won't collapse while we're waiting for this project to get started. They did a phenomenal job. I mean, when you go out, it's amazing what they did. Our crew's currently working on Buchanan Road to get ready to chip seal it. They've been working on widening. They've acquired the right of way and have been trying to widen that path through. They hope to, within just the next few weeks, kind of finish the widening part and prepare to get the chip seal. There are some utility relocations that may hold that project up. There's some a few pedestals that got to be moved, and I think one pole has got to be done, but that will help tremendously. And mowing crews are full speed ahead right now. They do have the crews that are going out, and then we also had 2 motor graders going out working on scraping at the same time, trying to get those up and going. So those are the updates of what's going on the roads right now. They've been very, very active.
I got 2 questions.
Yes.
Who created this document?
So Kirk sent it. I'm going to say with about 90% confidence that this came from from within his office staff, but I'm gonna give Kirk credit for it, for sending it over.
Well, they called us friendly commissioners.
They did call us friendly commissioners. That's why I was fairly confident that this was staffed and that Gina was probably the one that actually prepared this document to send it because of the term friendly commissioners. But I have to give Kirk the credit for being the one that emailed it, so I'm gonna say it was Kirk.
So my other question,
Yes.
at one point, I know it's a state project, we were expecting Highway 53 West to be paved within weeks, and I still haven't
So it's the same contractor that just finished the paving projects for us. They have left their equipment in the area, and so they have Mullinax Road was the other road that was resurfaced. So I knew there was one more that I was scared I was leaving off. They left a lot of their equipment right there at Mullinax, which is going to be part of that path. So all their equipment's here. They're the ones that have been awarded the bid. And so when they're actually going to start, I couldn't tell you, but they've been let. They got the contract and they've got the equipment sitting in the county. Their paving work was phenomenal. They did a great job. I know we got spoiled last year because C.W. Matthews brings in a whole separate flagging crew that specializes in flagging and directing the traffic around. And I think they're probably the only paving company that has that crew that's specifically a part of their team. And so we've kind of learned what the difference is with that. When they get on the state highway side, that'll probably be something we'll get a call or two on when they get through. But it is supposed to be all the way from Hill City back to town. And their equipment's in the county on the ready. So
It's only from Hill City to town.
from Hill City to Highway 515 is the area that's getting resurfaced this year. It's the most deteriorated portion of it, so there are some other areas that they need to in the future. Next up, we got Philip here to kind of talk. I know we've heard several counties talking about conservation, water conservation, and I think he's going to kind of give us what the state law says about it and what our processes are from that.
Thank you, gentlemen. I gave you a handout just a few minutes ago. So the state does impose a non-drought outdoor water use conservation guidelines. There's a list of to-dos and don'ts. The non-drought guidelines remain in place throughout the year and they're in effect now. We just hadn't reminded, our public, our customers. So we're wanting to put this out to remind them, conservation is everything. Every drop counts. Generally, the non-drought state guidelines allows persons to conduct outdoor watering for the purposes of planting, growing, managing, or maintaining ground cover trees, shrubs, or other plants. Only between the hours of 4 p.m. and 10 a.m. Not in the middle of the day, which generally everybody waters from this time, but you also have that select few that water throughout the day. Throughout the days when it absorbs more, so you're going to water more. We intend to remind our customers, mail them flyers, put it on social media, on our website, get Graham to put it on the county website. I know other surrounding counties, they have it when they go to their website, it flashes, and they have it year round as well. This is the first draft of the notice. Should the drought conditions emerge across the state, the EPD would impose guidelines. So what it's saying is I can't say, hey, we need to go under a water ban. We have to wait till either the EPD enforces it and we follow, or if we request to be put under or go under a water ban. We can't just do it out of our own free will. So the conditions worsen in the county, then that's when we would, write up something and apply through the EPD, for that total water ban. I don't know if anybody's ever been part of a total water ban. You want to stay as far away from it as possible. Because that means, you have to get law enforcement, the marshal's office, everybody involved. You have to monitor, you write tickets, fines. It just opens up a whole nother can of worms. So if we can educate them, any leak they see that's on our side, let us know right then, or if they've got a leak, a dripping faucet, people don't realize, but a drip or your commode running, you'll use 1,000, 1,500 gallons a day. And that adds up. That's 30,000 gallons a month. And people don't realize that a commode running, your water bill will be 40, 50,000 gallons by the end of the month. So,
wow.
it's just preparing because August and September is coming up. and everybody knows how hot and dry August and September is. So we're just wanting to educate her, remind them of, you know, what they can and can't do. And there's a list of guidelines that the state has put out, that's exempt from it or whatnot. You can read those there.
Someone did ask me if they saw a wet place on the road, if they should call someone to let them know, and I said, yes, please do that.
Absolutely, and we have a great, lead finder in Kirk Anderson. He'll be right down the road, and he sends me pictures of wet spots in the road. Whether it be a wet spot on the road, or, you know, we have a line crossing, you don't ever know until.
The best is to check
Right.
it and know. And fix it.
So, but there'll be a lot of folks that, well, I've seen water there for 2-3 weeks, we just thought it was a wet weather spring. Well, have you ever seen a wet weather spring there in your 30 years living here? No, well, it's a leak, so, you know, and we got one today that we're fixing on top of Henderson Mountain, that's been leaking for about 2 weeks. And somebody said it thought it was just a spring, because there are a lot of springs on Henderson Mountain Road.
Did you just run a whole new water line across there while you're doing it?
Do you want to talk about that now or wait later?
As we looked at why we're going from a 5-year to a 10-year capital improvement plan, that particular project might be what causes us to need to spread out that number of years quite a bit. So,
As everybody knows, Henderson Mountain used to be a state highway, so there's a 100-foot right of way. But you know what's on the left side of the road or the right side of the road, straight up or straight down. So we can talk more in depth about it later, but that's,
it's just nowhere to move the pipe
Yeah.
to.
You'd have to
put a
build a
different
new
kind of
road
pipe,
somewhere.
so,
off to the side just to run the water line. My idea was run it and throw dirt on top of it instead of building something just, you know, covered over, but that wouldn't work too well.
Just suspend the line beside the road.
There you go, yeah.
Yeah, but you'd have to have a lot of water going through it during them cold winters up there when it freezes across the mountain, so. But that is one that's on my list at the top.
Yeah.
So.
it's probably the most costly, well, one of the most costly because of how involved it is. But that's when we do get to the capital improvement plan where the finalized plan gets before you guys, which should be around our planning retreat when we go in August to be able to review that. So the cost, because it holds us up on doing a lot to repair that road. If we go pave it now, we're having a leak probably once a month that we'd have to cut a section of out and replace, and so you're constantly gonna tear up the newly paved road, which is the reason we keep kind of holding off on doing a full, but that road's gonna have to eventually be resurfaced. There's no way we can keep letting it go long term.
And speak of Henderson Mountain, the gentleman that you emailed us about, we have contacted the contractor or paving contractor this week to get that on the schedule. Kirk and I, we're gonna work together on that because that road was deteriorating there to begin with, but our leak didn't help matters none. So, yeah, so we're gonna go in hammers, or we're gonna go together on that, cause it's gonna be probably a 40-foot section long, probably about 5 or 8 foot, 6 or 8 foot wide that we're gonna have to dig up and replace. So we're gonna do that first, that way it settles, and then get the paving contractor to come in and repave it. So if you talk with them, or just let them know that we are gonna be working on it and repairing it. It is what they say it is, I promise you. So they're not telling them.
Not exactly.
Yeah, they're not.
I think on the water conservation thing, one of the things to know is we're prepared if we have to submit the request for a variance. If the conditions here are worse than what they are statewide and the state doesn't issue it, then we're prepared if we had to send something that created an alternate when you could water, when you couldn't water. I mean, some counties you see where odd numbers on 2 days a week and even numbers on 2 days a week, and the number of hours gets condensed. I mean, there are efforts that are between the year-round efforts and a total ban to help reduce that we could, but you still have to apply for that variance to be able to get through the process to do it. And I think we're on the ready in case things were to occur. Fortunately, right now we're not there, and hopefully we can continue to see some rain like we did last week and over the weekend, and keep that on a regular basis, and we won't get there. But we do know historically in our area we're about to hit the dry season. So, and if Kurt were here, he would tell you based on the dirt roads and the dust, and he's fully aware of that as well. So. But I think just making sure everybody knows that we're on the ready. I think it became a big topic a few weeks ago with some others that we're discussing, conservation measures. So, that's all I had for the evening. Do you guys have anything further that we're not addressed to cover?
That's a lot of stuff.
That was.
Thank you.
And then apparently Chief Prather's got us cake that we can all enjoy here in just a minute. So get a knife and some forks and plates.
Run, Chief, run.
Sat there and made us look at it the entire time.
Run straight to my truck.
All right, guys, we'll go ahead and adjourn the work session. Thank you for coming. Thanks for
I like this format.